Welcome, everybody, to the Level Up Show. I'm Sean T. McIntyre. I'm so excited for today's conversation, discussing the link between spirituality and our physicality. I want to dive right in. I want to welcome back returning guest, my brother, Mr. David Morin. Welcome to the show.
Welcome. All right, Sean, what an introduction, bro. Thank you so much. Appreciate you having me on again.
Oh my gosh, it's my pleasure. It's my honor. We were talking not that long ago, and it's interesting how our fitness journeys are evolving, right? Where we were even just, being in like magazines or the gym, just it's like there's a new evolution or expression that's wanting to come through. Would you agree with that? How yeah,
it is. I think it is interesting. And as you were saying that, Sean, I was thinking of how you and I, just like everyone on the planet, sought out physical activity for its neurochemical benefits, for its mental health benefits, for its aesthetic benefits, just to tap into that innate ability to provide to yourself a sense of control and happiness and vitality, the deep wellspring of life, if you will. And it's interesting that we're talking about being light bodies and how we're transitioning to this next phase. Well, it's interesting that we actually went into the two-dimensional space first. So our light bodies were physical representations just on a picture, right? That inspired, that lit up people's minds. Like they looked at your physique and they were like, boom, that light transferred in a two-dimensional plane into their mind and inspired them to take three-dimensional action. And now we're in the process of letting go of that two-dimensional representation of ourselves and even transitioning out of this third-dimensional representation of ourselves into a fourth dimensional representation, because that's the eventual, journey as we let go of these physical bodies.
Oh my gosh, there's where to start with that, hey? It's like, and that's why this conversation, David, I think is so important. But I love what you said for a few things there that I want to sort of touch on. Is it's like we look outside and we see these pictures, we see these colors, we see these representations of, it comes in through our eyes and it like lights up our brain, and we feel that we get this chemical neuro hit of energy in our body. And it's like we're hitting a point where it's like we're going to that next level. Like you said, it's like we've been using the physicality to push the mind to experience so many other levels, like even inside of us. But now it's almost like we're now learning to go within and like cultivate and call forward and then express that through our body. And versus, instead of just outside in, it's also now this inside out.
Yes.
Agree with that?
Yes, 100%. And this is not a process that's necessarily self-initiated. It's really just pattern recognition. I mean, as you get older, I'll be 50 this year. You just recognize that it's the biological necessity to make these changes, to trust nature. You can go against nature if you want to. That's where your free will. You can have choice. You can be 60 years old and you can lift weights and bodybuild, or use absorbent amount of androgens and different hormones to keep your body at a more muscular state. But you're going against nature. By the time we're 45, 50, all of the aggressive, exertion should be kind of, those kinks should be kind of worked out. You should be more of the, not survival of the fittest as much as you should be survival of the wisest, right?
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that. You know, and this is what I found with the fitness journey, how it applies to all of life. And that's why I love what you said, David, as far as like, we can learn from nature as far as like a more effortless way to grow and evolve and express. And haven't you found that even in business too, David, where it's like that hustle and grind for money, get all this stuff, like get it and bring it to yourself? It's sort of like, oh my gosh, like who wants to continue to do that? Like I understand in a particular phase, but it's almost like we're reaching this new point in everything, whether it's health and wellness and just vitality. Is this, well, there's another way versus just grind, hustle, you know, beat everything. It's like, no, what's this next level? And that's why I was so excited to, have this conversation with you, which is, what does it even mean as we have these conversations, because they're already happening, around building this next level of light body, or an expression of our next evolution? And that's why I wanted to have you here. What have you experienced in that transition from the hustle and grind to what's coming through?
Well, in someone who's really just done the grind and been up on the top of the world in terms of fitness, and traveling to multi-million dollar mansions, and owning different properties, and doing these insane photo shoots with no budgets, that you're in these locations, name a location, you're there, and I'll always love those experiences. And it's almost as if, those experiences help strengthen what I'm going through now, because I realized at that moment that when I was making contracts with my mind and my actions, I was able to attract appropriate to that stage in my life opportunities. And I think there's something, how like, Einstein basically, said that space-time can be bent, and that gravity, if you want to get an understanding of gravity, like you put like, bowling balls on a bed, and the bed represents space, and space folds around planets and stars, and that's space-time being bent. And I feel like we're how we fall towards gravity, we fall towards the center of the planet. I feel like in each stage of our development, ideas, what we're supposed to do, like people say, I get downloads. People say, like I'm having these creative thoughts. I think that's each stage in your life. Your age is a frequency on a dial that determines your gravity in the space-time continuum, and you're getting a field of information that's falling towards you that's appropriate for the time and space that you're occupying.
That's beautiful, man. That's actually a very powerful imagery. I love that, because even as if we were to relate that to nature, I agree with you. There's phases. And it's like, if we hit the end of a phase, it's like, okay, well, what's going to happen? Are we going to, embrace and begin to open up and learn and expand through wisdom on that next level? Or are we going to try and just like push through? And I think for humanity and in our society right now, we're sort of facing that. We've reached a point where it's like, I always go back to nature, where the acorn falls and then it rolls around the forest floor, and then eventually it has to get planted. and it's like getting covered with dirt, and it's like, oh my gosh, like, is this depression? I feel lost and stuck. But it's like, nah, we got to learn how to deepen those roots, gain new nourishment from different mineral and vitamin and mineral content, and learn how to grow maybe a little differently. And that's what I see and hear you saying. It's like, okay, yeah, we've built these bodies, we've created some stimulus, but now it's like, what's the next level of nourishing ourselves to grow even a little differently? And that's where I wanted to really sort of open this conversation up just even a little more, is what does that look like for us to nourish ourselves differently? Because you and I both know, if we talk about nourishment, people automatically might go to food, right? It's like, oh, okay, let's count our calories, let's count our macros. And it's like, we're moving beyond that, aren't we?
Absolutely. And it's what a great metaphor you brought up with the acorn and just the stages of its development, and then it finally catching its roots and realizing that it has a race towards the sun. I feel I really resonate with that, because if you're in bodybuilding, if you're into weight training, if you're a trainer, if you're into your job, whatever you're into, your thoughts are aligned with that, and that's what you're attracting. And for me, the ultimate source of all life on this planet is the sun. And so I'm focused on the sun, I'm focused on the light. For me, there's no greater example of effortlessness in terms of providing for all things. And so that's my template to strive for, is no matter what, every single day the sun is up, it's providing light, warmth, energy, nourishment for all living things on the planet. And I'm experiencing a lot of changes as I've shifted, my life towards focusing more on the light. If you don't, you can have a lot of, substitutions. You can have a lot of lots of distractions that will substitute you, and this phone, obviously, in technology, is one of those light substitutions that now is becoming ever more acknowledged among the scientific community as very disruptive to our biology. So it's disruptive to our psychology, it's disruptive to our endocrinology, our hormones, our psychology in terms of depression, and down to the very secretion of neurochemical hormones like dopamine and serotonin, and even blood glucose. I just found out recently, there's a study, and everyone can go look it up. It's so blue light is as we know, is a harmful non-native electromagnetic field. It's emitted from phones, it's emitted from computers, and different spaces you may inhabit, malls and cars, xenon lights and things like that. And it's ubiquitous throughout society. We're exposed to it all the time. We nonchalantly walk our way through life, conveniently lit, in our apartments at 10 o'clock at night, at 5 o'clock in the morning. It's all around us. And there's some false sense of security that we've just blindly accepted this, derivative, incomplete, non-full spectrum, non-native electromagnetic field. And what we're finding out now is you can look up scholarly papers that will show that, non-native blue light increases cortisol. That's the big problem with people trying to sleep when on their phones at night, dysregulates sleep patterns. But the mechanism by which it does this, and then start thinking about how photons and how light misappropriated, and what actual light, what source light does versus non-source light. Because anything that is not part of the original true light of the world, so to speak, is actually shadow. It's not light. So we've lulled ourselves into the illusion of being in a lit and enlightened society. But really, because we're not acknowledging the one true light, we're living in a shadow, and that shadow expresses itself physiologically, even down to the molecules of mechanism of raising cortisol. And cortisol is a stress hormone that is triggered by blue light, and our bodies convert cortisol into glucose via a process called gluconeogenesis. Now, this is why insulin resistance and obesity, literally, you can show someone on a television or on their smartphone a picture of, an apple pie or a burger or with fries, and just zoom in on that. And this two-dimensional field of non-native electromagnetic arrangements of frequencies in the form of light are transmitted into the light of the subject witnessing them. And because they already identify on a very cellular level what it is they're looking at, it triggers digestive responses and insulin resistance to you identifying the macronutrient that you're looking at. So this is the epitome of training human beings to be strung out on the exact opposite of what we need to nourish ourselves. And when we look at it, ultimately, we're either digesting light or we're digesting shadow. We're digesting darkness. And that's my litmus test of credulity now. That's my hard stop, is it closer to natural? Is it sun? Is it light, dark, cold? Is it electromagnetic? Is it natural? Am I in the environment experiencing it, or is this just a derivative, like an artificial sweetener, artificial light, artificial color, artificial intelligence? These are things that have detrimental effects on human organisms, for sure.
Oh my God, 1,000%, 1,000%. That is so powerful. And just my experience with what you're saying, because I want to zero in on that, because I don't think that is even close to being understood right now, even in, the fitness world. But, the way that I sort of look at it, David, is like, if I am consuming, artificial light or darkness, then it's lowering my natural ability to access higher frequency.
Mm-hmm.
And if I am consuming food, if I am consuming outside stuff my frequency is already lower, which is going to now produce, counter effects to health and wellness, which is this higher frequency vitality and wellness. And so it's now this cycle of low frequency sort of building upon itself.
Yes.
And so I love what you're saying. What are some of the steps for us to begin to be able to raise our frequency, to begin to enhance ourselves, to begin to even turn that around?
Limit Tim Hortons to once a week.
Absolutely.
Sean, it's all this stuff is circadian biology. It's this is the beautiful thing about just looking deep into circadian biology, how the super cosmetic nucleus affects the hypothalamus, which in turn, regulates all of what we experience as, cravings and mood and hormones and all things. It's all regulated by light. And this tends to give real teeth to and very cogent measure to what we call the spiritual world. We have to be able to traverse the world of, mystical experience and spiritual, ecstasy and, enlightenment and these things. But also, I feel like it's important to recognize that I do believe like Western science was well on its way through sciences like cymatic vibrational understanding of, using waves through a medium to create arrangements, like,
Absolutely.
snowflakes have, geometry. All of these things are frequencies. And so if everything is either, a frequency, a wave, or a particle, right?
That's
And part collapse and waves, the waveform, the function of the waveform collapses in real time, then we're not talking about, Newton's laws of cause and effect. We're talking about how you perceive reality and how your perceptions collapse space-time into manifesting from the fourth dimension, which is, you know, full of all of our ideas. And some of us can think beyond even the fourth dimension, the fifth or sixth, or sometimes we'll have an experience with higher intelligence while we're sleeping, or just in the middle of a meditation, or just spacing out sometimes in nature. And you'll get this amazing download that will come through. And then the difficult task is to take that fourth dimension conception and start implementing it into through this multidimensional being that you are into something that's tangible. And that starts with your behavior. So anybody who knows, if you want to build a chair, you could have this amazing, vision about this amazing wooden carved chair that's, mahogany, that has, inlays, which you're going to use, different kind of seafoam green accents in the grooves, and then sand it over and wax it. You can think of all these things conceptually, but to bring them into the third dimension, you're literally pulling molecules or light. You're literally pulling light from the fourth dimension and manifesting the subatomic particles. Just because you're doing it with your hands or with tools doesn't mean it's any less miraculous of a manifestation. It's literal magic. You're doing magic. Okay. Now, when you do this, you're just saying, if you want to demystify it, you're just saying, oh, you're a really creative person. If you want to downplay it and be humble, it's like, yeah, you're a really creative person. But in reality, in the real cosmic sense of like understanding that you and me and every human being are creators, co-creators of the universe.
yes.
It really does awaken us to responsibilities that we have. And this is part of this transition of getting older. If you're leaders in the thought leader space, or you're leaders in the fitness space, and you have to be leaders in this, space of this transition where we're just creative entities. Yes, we created a body that was like, in magazines or inspired other people to work out. And this creative force that's running through us, it's not ours. It just runs through us. We're just a medium for its expression. And I think it's fascinating to be able to not attach to what we were, because you and I could, you're still in awesome shape. I mean, I could probably compete in a physique show in 2 months if I wanted to. It's like it's not a challenge for me to create those changes in my body.
Right.
What's a challenge for me now is to see how I can orient my mind to things and creating things that I haven't created yet.
You're touching upon something that is like brilliant in my perspective, listening to you, because it's not just a physical body. We have a mental body, which means we can develop and expand our mind to hold more of this light or energy.
Mm.
And I think if we were to even look outside, we can look at the world, and there's a cry for us to be able to tap into our minds, as what you're talking about, as creators. And if we were to look at and apply that to health and vitality, look at the amounts of discussions around mental health, depression, everything we're facing.
Mm.
I don't think there's any coincidence in that fact that we're being called to not just develop our physical body, but our mental body and even beyond. Would you agree with that?
100%. Yeah. It's like we're both kind of aligning with accepting the chosen task in our timelines, in our individual lives right now. That acceptance is crucial for having peace, like peace of mind, like I've been at moments in my life where I've just felt so disconnected from my purpose because I felt as though what I was trying to obtain was completely off my timeline, the realistic timeline of what's appropriate for my life at this stage. Like, basically, grow up, dude. Like, this is what you should be thinking because you're not thinking forward enough to, the next 10 years of your life. You're going to be from 50 to 60. It's like the delusions of grandeur. Like, this is a wasteland that a lot of people, their souls get bound up in. And look, for each generation, for each decade of one's life, I mean, for me, I feel like the challenge is not, what can you do? The challenge is letting go,
Yes.
you know?
Yes. Oh my gosh. 1,000%. 1,000%.
And
That's
what's going to come
oh,
in? What's going to come in? Because the law, one of the laws of energy conservation is, you know, uh, this energy that you have that you've been giving to this thing that's maybe not appropriate for your timeline right now at this particular moment in your life. You're letting it go because you're trusting in nature. You're trusting that all this 4.6 billion years and thus all the successive lives that have united in light to create the star that you are, that is manifesting itself in this current timeline. Like, you have to trust that all of these things in this decentralized system of the universe and nature, like, these systems are more intelligent than we could ever imagine. And so when we trust in that, I feel like we're in the hands of the mother and the father in that case. And it becomes, for me, it takes so much. You can call it faith, you can call it whatever you want. It just, the load is taken off, man. And I have so much more RAM free to be able to just access things I thought I could never accomplish, things, different things. Like, I'm writing a book. I hate writing. Hate it. Like, I would seriously, I would rather dig ditches than write books. But for some reason, I'm just like, it sucks. Guess you got to do it, you know?
thank God for all those hours in the gym of like the burn and to be able to like embrace and face the things that are difficult
Right.
because you might actually be on the cusp of, creating your next level of genius and greatness, right?
Could be. I mean, that's the thing is resistance takes many forms, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that's drawing the link between what we call spirituality and our physicality is, I call it, for me, it's just, it's a level of trust and presence that it's not what's wrong here that necessarily needs to be fixed with the old strategies, identities that I've had. It's not what's wrong. It's what's next. And I know you and I have talked about that. And so, yeah, when we realize, oh my gosh, there's another level because we've got this genius and greatness in us, which you're saying. So how do we allow it to come out of us? And that's what I hear in when you talk about the letting go. and, freeing up more space. This is really about creating space for the next, unfolding to occur. Would you agree?
100%, Sean. And this is where kind of the interpretation of the chakras can come in as a practical, user interface for the hardware that you're born with. You can upgrade your software as you continue through life, and as you upgrade your software, your hardware is going to change, but what it's going to do is it's going to take everything that you've learned before and it's going to be an update. So you're going to get updates and updates and updates. So eventually, let's say, you start looking at yourself using this kind of practical chakra understanding, right? So chakras are just, they're interpreted in mysticism in India and Indian culture as these wheels of light inside your body. They're electromagnetic. They have a specific color. They're associated with specific behavioral characteristics that you could categorize as psychological. Your base chakra is like red. It's associated with your security. It's associated with your environment. It's the base of your perineum. In between as a guy, between your balls and your ass. So that's your prostate, basically. So that's this, your center of gravity and how it interfaces with the planet. So that's really, has a lot to do with the kinetic chain and how your spine's aligned with the planet and how the energy of the planet is running through from the bottom of your spine. And then as you go up, right at your navel, there's another one. That's your sexual creative center. That's where they say that, the Dantian in Chinese or the Hara in Japanese is where the soul is. That's why ritual suicide for the Japanese was like, look, this fastest way I can get my soul out. It was right in the gut, right in the bowel. They disemboweled themselves, let their gut. Then you have the solar plexus. And, whenever you can, here's a fun task for people that are listening. If you want to know what chakra someone is in based on their body language, there's a language chakra interface interpretation that you can practice. If someone has their arms crossed, right, in a very kind of like solid, stoic, grounded, very opinionated, firm position, body language position, they're in their base chakra. They're going all the way down to their very critical, very solid belief systems. They're kind of really skeptical. They're holding their ground. Anybody who's like, talking to you like this, side to side, side to side, back and forth, like water, that's the second chakra. That's the creative yin yang, because the base chakra is the Tao, is all together. The base chakra is the beginning of, duality. So all of these things separate as they grow up and they diversify. So you can even see that in the chakra systems that'll show you as one image, then multiple images, almost like the way cells replicate. These nerve and energy centers, they diversify and complexify as they go up. So then you have your solar plexus, which is somebody who's very forward leaning, someone who really likes to get into the conversation, get really close to you, very assertive kind of person. It's associated with fire, but a positive aspect of this expression. So this is someone who's very explosive and creative and charming, and someone who could be very charismatic. This is this. Then you have your throat chakra, which is someone who, really pays attention to the way that they speak, their tonality, their resonance. So you can see where people are on the spectrum when you use this as a template. Now, the important thing practically to understand is that these are, as we were talking about, your own personal evolution, right?
Yes.
Each one, as you go through your life, you go through the breeding years, you go through trying to establish stability in society. These are all chakra levels. And, you have, in your creative, center in the second chakra, not only do you have the ability to create another human life, but you have the ability to be creative in that space. the color associated with that chakra is orange. And so that's why the Buddhists, they wear the saffron orange. This
Yes.
is symbolism of their vow of abstinence, so that they own that space. That space is being used for creativity, for nurturing chi, nurturing the prana, the energy of the universe. So, it's fascinating when you start understanding the characteristics, the behaviors of each one, and how we all go through these because we're multi-dimensional beings. And the thing is if you feel like I need change, I feel like I want to evolve, like, start putting yourself in this chakra template and see, well, if you like to sing, or do you want to sing, maybe this, or speak, that's part of the essence of what it means to be human. Language and speech is something that there's a lot of people that get, terminal illness. They get, throat cancer or lymphatic cancer because they're repressing what they know they need to say in their life. The vibratory characteristics of speaking their truth are being repressed. And sometimes that is a manifestation of frequencies in the physiological tissue. So when you think about these things, it's like, hey, do I have a tendency to kind of shut my mouth too much, to repress how I really feel? Am I afraid of hurting people's feelings? I need to speak. I need this to be open, and then all the way up into your third eye, which is obviously, when you dream, do you have visions? When you close your eyes, can you see things clearly in your mind's eye? If you can't, then these are areas to work on. And there's exercises you can do to awaken them. Number one, with your third eye, you have to look at the sun in the morning. You have to see that light as much as you can in its early morning hours, because that's setting the clock of all the cells in your body. And every single cell in your body has a biological clock, and all those processes are dependent on light. And so as we move ever towards a technological society where they're just using false light to trigger obviously unnatural biological responses that we categorize as mental illness or physical illness, we can clearly see, like, 80% of the workforce in the United States in 1960 work outside. Now 96% of the workforce in the United States works inside.
Absolutely.
Chronic disease and cancer. Cancer is on the rise. You can just look at statistics and nobody knows what's going on. Guarantee you the substrate of cancer and the metabolic processes of cells are dependent on mitochondria. That's all a function of circadian biology. So you can, look at this any way you want to. You can use a chakra guide as a way to integrate and understand your behaviors and where you're at on that scale. And, like, if you need to speak up, if you need to sing in the shower, it's like, open yourself up,
Absolutely.
open centers up, get it, and stop repressing yourself. This thing has to flow out of the head and down through the spine, in through the feet, through the Earth's magnetic field, because you're a Taurus. Your energy flows up your spine, out of your head. And people think I'm crazy, but the Earth is a magnetic field. We have magnetic fields. We feel it when we get close to people we care for. We feel this magnetic sensation when we're guided to certain people, or when we have deep connections with people. And so that magnetic field, can be strengthened. And when all, energy centers in the body are working correctly, that electromagnetic field is charging your cells, your mitochondria, your immune system, and your imagination. So you're a self-contained, self-fulfilling, self-healing, amazing, multi-dimensional machine created by nature. It's like,
Oh, that's, again, we are like a spiritual machine extraordinaire.
yeah,
Like, I hear you saying you were these creative beings, multidimensional. And I love what you're talking about with the chakra system as a template that you said, as a way to even begin to self heal, especially in the world that we're moving into of artificial intelligence, artificial light, artificial food, artificial. I think now more than ever, the ability to express through these creative centers is because you're talking about each creative center having its own color, its own frequency, its own light.
Mm-hmm.
To me, this is how I see building the light body as a way to stair step our way up to being able to be those self healers, the self expression, the self care that everyone is sort of talking about. We already have it all. We just have to learn how to use this creative machine extraordinaire that you're talking about. And so
Exactly.
to me, this is like brilliant.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
working template is really what we need. And you brought up you know just look, there's some things that are very, very important that I
yeah,
think they're building systems in our infrastructure, in our medical system, in our social media, in every business, in money and finance. They have bots, algorithmic bots that track trades, that automatically anticipate market ups and downs, that are way faster than you can speculate or any group of investors can speculate. I mean, this is market manipulation. This is how the human being outside of their algorithmic rigged game is going to lose. If we want to play their game and we're not written into the algorithm, like, for example, Western medical science now uses algorithmic diagnosis based on what? Based on flawed data, flawed, conventional, orthodox, sanctioned data. Who sanctions the data? The powers that be, who are financially invested to make sure that, just like when you search Google and you want to find something that is true, and you have to go down to the 6th page to find it.
that's right. That's
This
right.
is the same thing that they're going to do inside every single system that they control inside this matrix. And it's going to frustrate the shit out of you when you realize there's only one way, out of, this whole thing, is to align yourself with the original internet, not the internet, but the internet. And
Brilliant.
that's where we're discussing these ideas. We're populating these ideas in the free space that's maybe not bound to an algorithm, but I think eventually this information will reach critical mass, because those principles, critical mass, having these conversations, having the revelations about who we truly are, how do we resonate with each other on a higher level, so that we're not, behave like listening to hip hop and like degrading each other and doing
Right.
drugs, like what pop culture wants young kids to do, and once what our generation did for a time, like
That's
that
right.
same cycle of just wasting minds and never giving them the truth about who we are and what we're doing, will reach critical mass. These conversations will reach critical mass because they're a unified field based on the biological, instinctive, universal principles that govern all life. They cannot outmaneuver life. That is our Noah's Ark.
Yes. Yes, man. Like, I so agree. This conversation right here, David, it is going to explode because it already is, right? What you're talking about, that as I hear it, is live light, live feed, live inner knowing, live connectivity, like live, not artificial, where it's made our life so easy based on lower frequency that we've now stopped you know, interacting and it's just being done for us, we have to be aware of that. We have to learn how to keep rising and learning how to go within, not just going without and consuming, but creating. That's what I hear you saying.
100%. You've nailed it. You nailed it. That's only originality, transparency, and authenticity will make it in the future. You're born an original. You can't exist as a copy. The days of copies and fakes and frauds and gimmicks, all that stuff is going to be washed away.
You hear it, right? You hear it. It's, you know, if you're on social media, the new, like it all sounds the same, and it's the noise. And I think you nailed it, David. It's like the authenticity is like the superpower of the future, but it's so ancient, it's so original.
Right, right.
It's going to be the superpower to cut through the noise. I
Yeah.
love what you're saying, man.
Yeah. What you see, like, of course, I've taken courses for AI and because I want to study the monster, I'm speaking
Of
about. And
course.
social media companies that want to promote your business and things like that. How do they work? Like, what are they manipulating? What's the mechanism? What are they controlling? Like, what are they influenced so that you can gain influence?
That's right.
And so, I look at all this stuff, and it's like basically they're just being spoon fed from the tech creators themselves, and they're just basic they're being digested. They're taking themselves, and going, here, digest me, my creativity, all the work that I want to do, and I'm just going to be the person that helps a node in your network that binds to creators and uses these creators, for some level of productivity. And that level of productivity is going to be dependent on your financial investment, not by its merits, but by how much money you poured into it.
That's
And
right.
that is not going to work either in the future, because it's going to be about, uh, if your merits, your merits, your credibility, your thoughtfulness, your points of view, how your creative spark as an individual is going to lend itself to helping as many people as possible, just by the way that you think, by the life that you've lived. That's the only thing that you can call yours. Your choices, your experience, your life experience, your circumstances, your situations, that's you. And everyone is original. See, this is the beautiful thing about it, because no one person in the grand conscious field that is the super consciousness that is God, not one person has the exact same experiences, and that's by design. And so each person will have their opportunity to speak their story. And the story obviously becomes more interesting when people realize, hey, like, I'm an original and I can tell a story, and the story is based on, look, heart heroes and villains, and you can make it all dramatic like you want to, and because it's your life, it's your story. So get as creative and as wild as an imaginative, but don't, shortchange yourself from the experience. Don't embellish to the point where you're diluting the potency of your story, because it's necessary for you to have the skin in the game. Because if you don't have the skin in the game, nature's not going to have your back.
Mm,
Nature's not going to reward you if you don't have the courage to actually put the skin in the game, because every single species out here has skin in the game. You can't trick the system. That's what people are trying to do, trying to trick the system.
yes. Oh my, that was brilliantly said. And it's like our own circadian rhythm versus the algorithm knowing which frequency to expand upon and grow. Dude, yeah. Like you're just nailing all these points. So I want to sort of bring it back, and then I want to talk about exactly what you're doing to help teach and bring this information to people. But when we talk about the body, and when we talk about even business and bringing our own brilliance, to me it's all the same thing about what you're talking about, David. Is so how, when it comes to, being an original, even in business, because I know you're writing a book, you're launching new aspects of, your platform, your business, your brand, and these are all conversations that everyone's, if not right now, they're going to be extremely interested in, because the AI is just going to downgrade, and it's going to just drive people to the platform of authenticity that you're talking about. Do you literally see it that as we take care of our body, that frequency will automatically start, enhancing our business and our brilliance of who we are?
Oh yeah, yeah. And it's not as difficult as people who don't have a physical practice may think. It's really simple. I mean, it's really just getting in the light or
Mm.
getting cold, moving, being very disciplined with the dark, because just like half of the earth is in dark, and while the other half of the earth is in light, the darkness is very important for us to be able to get melatonin secretion and our sleep cycles and all these things into all the science of it. But I think if people just had a routine of just moving outside, it could just be lunges and jumping jacks and planks and push-ups, and just stuff that you can do. Like, there's a million content creators out there. It's super saturated with creators out there. And that's going to force people to dig a little bit deeper. And
Yes.
when if you're not even into being a content creator, you don't even know what you want to do, but probably AI is going to take your job in the next 5 years. You better start thinking about, what are the creative processes? What are the substrates? What's the behavioral diet, if you will, that's going to cultivate the creative muscle that's going to give you the independence in a marketplace full of mediocrity or full of carbon copy. And those substrates, that diet of creativity, involves you being committed to the experiences that you haven't. And specifically the experiences that you haven't that revolve around basic biological needs, you know,
Mm.
sleeping right, eating right, breathing right, stretching, exertion, small amounts of exertion. You could take the blue zone template. These people, the blue zones, are centenarians. You could take, that template, write down the 20 things that are inherent in their environment and the behaviors that these people adhere to, that have produced these unique humans that live to 100 years old. Pick one. Pick the Sherpas from the Himalayas. If you live in Colorado and you're living in the mountains, pick the Sherpa lifestyle. If you're somebody who lives in Florida like myself, you better be having your feet in the surf so that you can get those electrons, and make sure you're downloading as much of that beautiful electromagnetic reactor that's out there, providing all light and life to every living thing on the planet. These are the basic substrates that are going to cultivate the creative you that's going to separate yourself in the carbon copy, space reality that they're creating inside of this technological paradigm. And, like I was just saying, with just exercise, I mean, that's just one aspect of it. Fasting isn't it? Why do you think these things are popping up? Like, why is it that the only conclusion I've come to, Sean, and maybe you can agree or disagree. If you disagree, I'd love to hear your points of view on it. But it seems as though inherently humans have just woken up in the last 10 years and gone, fasting, good, cold, great, saunas, amazing, sun gazing, sunbathing, super, yoga, amazing, exercise, wonderful, right? All of these things, these are like the defense mechanisms against them. Bullshit. you know?
Oh my gosh. I so agree with you. It's this is ancient wisdom. This is being conscious of not what's just going on out there, it's what's going on in here. And I think we would naturally tune into a level of wisdom that would naturally want to allow us to rise up this template of energy that we will naturally expand but still be connected to the ground, to the sky, you know. And it's like, to me, it's a natural process of evolution that if we just learn to go within, all of
Mm.
these things make themselves known. We don't have to be eating all the time, just like, right? We don't have to be consuming all the time. It actually shuts down our ability to connect. That's what I hear you saying. And I 1000% agree.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the difference between someone who counts their heartbeats,
Mm.
in their mind. They can hear their own heartbeat when they're working out, and they're beating in their own chest. They've trained themselves and their breath to be so sensitive that they can hear their own heartbeat, versus someone who's just relying on a device.
Oh,
Someone's
brilliant.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
my heart rate's this. It's like, what are you going to do if you don't have that watch on? Are you gonna freak out because you don't know what your heart rate is? I mean, how many people have you known? I've met several who just, they don't even want to. I've done a meditation course. People don't even want to close their eyes. It's like they're afraid to close their eyes, man. It's like, these are things that just, I'm like, guys, I want to hold your hand through this, but we have to find our way back to not being dependent on these things that we think bring us security. That's just completely false. The only security you're going to find the day that you die, God forbid you don't have some sense of inner connection, and you're just like, who's in control? Who's going to beam me up? Or does God have the coordinates that I'm sending him through my smartwatch? Or, am I in the right gear? Like, GPS told me I should be here and I'm not there. Like, are you going to panic, or are you just going to know, like, intuitively that, this is your breath, the last breath, and this is by design. And I do believe every human being has, has the choice of free will within the, for the most part, predetermined path that they're on. So you do have choice, but for the most part, your parents and your parents' parents and your parents' parents' parents, they endowed you with character
Yes.
and strengths and weaknesses, and we're a byproduct of that in a new reconstituted physical form that will make different choices, but for the most part, we're the same river. We may meander here and there, but we're all going back to the same place, and we came from the same place.
Oh, well said. Well said, man. So what I'm also hearing you saying is the ability to slow down and to go within, that we might have even in the past thought, go out there, hustle, grind, race, chase. That's the new entrepreneur. That's the successful entrepreneur. But I think you nailed it, that actually a lot of people, if not most people, have trouble just sitting down, closing their eyes, and feeling their own heartbeat, their own being able to tap in. And that is actually the next level for us to really begin to go to the next level of our growth and evolution.
Absolutely, brother. And your heartbeat oscillates at the same frequency as jellyfish undulate in the ocean. So jellyfish typically, your heart rate as an adult is anywhere from 45 to 65. Most jellyfish in the open ocean have the same, oscillation. where this vibrational frequency that's hardwired into the Schumann resonance, the actual Earth's magnetic field has a heartbeat. It oscillates around between 7 and 9 hertz. It does the same. Everything is, you don't have to think about it, guys.
Totally.
There's been some intelligent force that's beyond us that actually put all the intelligence we ever need. We just have to get our neocortex out of our way, get out of our heads, stop thinking that we have to have something, because we are everything.
That's it. Yes.
And
Yes.
and when that, for me, when I realized like I am part of nature, light flows through me because I am just a form of reconstituted light that's just been arranged in subatomic particles, and that is a morphology of a human form. I'm just, all creatures are all light. They all have their own specific frequency signature, and just like, you know, each frequency on the dial of a climatic, plate that's plugged into a high frequency creates a geometric form. We are the geometric multidimensional form that is called human, that is the specific frequency. All that stuff's been worked out. I don't have to think about it. I just have to appreciate it. I just have to thank you. Oh my, I made it. You made it, bro. We're we're here. It's amazing. Gratitude. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad I have this wonderful body. I'm so glad that I can hear my heartbeat. I'm so glad that I can speak words, these invisible, things that come out of my mouth that go into other people's ears, and they actually can understand. I'm telling you that eventually I'm going to own a sailboat, and I'm going to, sail. It's going to be a beautiful white boat with a white sail, and I'm going to sail in the open ocean all the way to the Dominican Republic. I can say these things that going through the phone, and it goes in your mind. You know exactly what I'm talking about. This is telepathy. Tell me this is not telepathy.
Oh my gosh. Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely. We're here. We've made it. It's like survival has been achieved. We don't have to keep beating that. It's here.
Yes.
I,
Yes.
yes, we just have to appreciate it. Oh my gosh. David, this has been absolutely genius. I want to be able to, share what it is you're doing, because you've got opportunities for people to get involved, go deeper on understanding how to just appreciate what we are, how to expand what it is that we have, and take
Yeah.
that to the next level. So I want to touch on that. If you can just, share what it is you got going on.
So I have two things going on besides like my family and new kids.
You've got many things going on. Yeah.
You and me both, bro. We're giving the finger to Bill Gates, both of us, with all of our kids. So I have one project I'm working on. It's called Influence to Empire, and it's an influencer to entrepreneur conversion business that focuses on bright influencers in the social media space that have a very large following, but they're wasting their time representing third-party brands that really don't represent their interests and align with them. Temporary paychecks, non-job security, going from sponsor to sponsor to sponsor. I know, I've been there, I've done that. And so what I help people identify is why people follow those people, and what product they can bring, whether it's, an argan hair oil or some skincare product, or if it's on the men's side, if it's supplements or pre-workout or immune function or anything. I help people to bring a product to the market that's actually theirs, that they help to design and formulate, label, and disseminate to their audience organically, straight from the creator to their audience. And so that's one project I'm working on. That's called Influence to Empire. And you can go to my Instagram at Get Morin, and you can find out more information there. And then the other thing I'm doing is a series of retreats in some very special locations on the planet. The first retreat is going to be May 15th through the 20th in Tulum, Mexico. It's nomadic, KNO, nomadic. The gypsy mixes with the gnosis of what the experience will be. And
Love it.
this is very much about, you know, demystifying the mystical, but at the same time, making it more tangible so that there's more utility, that it's grasped, that it's not something that's out there that comes and goes, that it's something that it comes down to your habits and your behaviors. And what is, what we experience as, mystical or spiritual is actually magnetic and energetic. And so there's fundamental behavioral changes that you can cultivate. You can make choices every day that nurture this magnetic and energetic frequency, so that the possibilities are infinite for you when you discover that there's real tools that you can use to become more of a spiritual person. So that's in Tulum, very special place, Tulum. That's where the K2 meteorite struck to kill the dinosaurs. So the earth is really thin there. The magnetic field is very strong because the iron, the magma, is close to the surface there. And all of the cenote system, that's all the fresh water for Mexico, is basically ultra mineral filtered deuterium free water. And deuterium is actually the water that our mitochondria creates during the ATP process. When your cells and your mitochondria create energy, it actually creates water in the process, and that's deuterium free water, the best water, in our body. And that's why I chose Tulum first. And it already has a very, mystical kind of spiritual identity already. So I'm just trying to help people understand that maybe a little bit more. Secrets of the Sun are the topics, how to eat right for your genotype, and a lot of the hormetic, things that you can do in your environment, cold thermogenesis, why that's necessary. Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's going to be amazing. I'm really looking forward to the retreats, because that's where I feel like I thrive, because I connect with people and there's a synergy. There's an awakening that occurs in real time when people are invested to go to a place to interact with me, and I interact with them. And there's providence, like something opens up in the moment that it's so real, that is so impactful, that it takes everyone's energies to make happen. And so that's why I love this retreat series. So you can find out more about that also at Get Morin on Instagram. I have a PDF that I can send people, and a website that processes people if they want to go to a landing page and process and get their deposit and all that stuff. But May 15th through the 20th, Mexico.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome. So yeah, guys, check that out, because literally we're moving in a direction where more connection, more live conscious connection is needed. So you're bringing that, which is right on point, man. Again, you're showing right up on time. So,
and brother, like I said, the second in the series of retreats, I'm hoping to do, if everything goes well in Tulum, with a really good activation there, is bring you on board, man. We'll go to this island, this volcanic island in the Caribbean called Dominica, which is a black beach island. It's highly thermodynamic. There's a lot of thermo pools. There's a lot of hot springs. But two main activities we'll do there: swim with the second largest whale in the world, the sperm whale, which is the Moby Dick looking whale that eat Humboldt squid. Swim next to these 60 to 80-foot behemoths out there, and witness their amazing intelligence and their mystical presence, man. Talk about spiritual, mystical, vibrational, incredible experience. And then rappel down this crazy waterfall that's 250 foot high. So
well, you let me know. I'll be there, guaranteed, and we'll bring people. We'll fill it right up. So yeah, that sounds absolutely magical. And yes,
adventures that are proven safe, with safe guides who have an amazing track record of guiding people through these things, and ultimately it becomes just an otherworldly experience, so deeply immersive so shocking to the monotony of what your experience would be, that it inspires you to live and lead a life that's just more fulfilling and dynamic and purposeful. So
Oh, let's do it. Let's do it, man. This is David, as always, man. Love connecting. You're a true brother. It's like, we're walking the path together. So I always love bringing you on board to my community and everyone who can, learn, because I really see and believe that collaboration is a part of the future, right? Just bringing us all together. So thank you for sharing your genius and wisdom, man.
hey, likewise, brother. I appreciate you providing a format. And yeah, hopefully your listeners, and we can get some of my followers, everybody gets together. We'll have a nice group of people and we'll have a great time.
Absolutely.